Hello, everyone. Today we have a very interesting and sort of unique person, a musician who has turned to agriculture. It's quite amazing, actually. We have with us Nishant Gill. Let's listen to him. Over to you, Nishant.
Good evening, everyone. Well, first of all, thanks so much to both for having me here. It's a great privilege to be able to talk on your Vidped sessions. I have sort of browsed through some of them and very keenly as well. And I think like there are some really brilliant sessions in there. And I hope that this initiative of yours grows a lot, and it can be something of a really wonderful place for youngsters to come do and just like look for some inspiration and find some like um, much needed introspection as well, maybe.
Okay.
I have been born and brought up in New Delhi, and I studied economic honors from Delhi University, although not with a lot of keen interest. I literally had like 2%, 3% attendance during my college years, and I spent most of my college just like consuming unholy amounts of content with my friends, like watching a lot of movies, listening to a lot of music, and that's all I would do for like hours and hours on end. We would travel a lot around the city and just like have a grand time. But it was sort of like very confusing youth years for me personally. I did not have a lot of clarity back then. During college years, I sort of like had developed a keen interest in being a musician, and started building my own synthesizers, learning how to do so as well at the same time, and just doing like sort of avant-garde, ambient, live music shows as well as DJing, and after that time I also like started working at this internet radio station called boxout.fm. I did work there for like 3.5 years almost, I think, and I worked as like the radio program manager, programming like 24 hours of alternative music for like Indian audiences and global audiences, trying to reach out to like various people and musicians out there, trying to like put content on the radio station, and as well as doing a lot of events, music events, organizing those. Uh, that went on for about a few years, and I think it was just a few months before COVID, somewhere around 2019 October, when I quit my music industry job, and I quit it with an intention that okay, I'm just gonna sit in my studio, I'm gonna lock myself in for a few months, and I'm going to make a music album so I can like put that work out there, hopefully get more shows, and like try to be a popular musician in some ways. Little I would know, like I would get buried into like YouTube's algorithm of like farming. I don't know how it picked up on this like childhood or like, a young dream of mine, which is like, okay, I'll someday have enough money, hopefully, to have a farm and I'll become a homesteader. That would be sort of like my retirement plan. I really just got sucked into like YouTube's algorithms and like started consuming again unholy amounts of content on agriculture, and I learned about market gardening. I learned about a few people who sort of became like these early idols in my life. There was this farmer Richard Perkins from uh, Sweden, Jean Martin Fortier from Canada, Alan Savory, who's like really well renowned for his work in like holistic management, who is someone who has rehabilitated around 40 million hectares plus of land across all the different continents. And this was just a bit before COVID as well. And I'm a huge Reddit nerd, and I was like always on Reddit at that time. And Reddit was sort of blaring alarms that oh, COVID is going to be a big thing, and it's going to disrupt everything. It's going to change lives, economic systems, how everything works. And I sort of like started thinking, what am I gonna do with my life? How am I gonna move forward? And then I just started thinking of what can be done in this industry, and how agriculture can become something really important, and in many ways sort of not be subjected to a lot of other types of change. Like COVID was not going to disrupt agriculture in many ways. Instead, it sort of like everyone could see how it's going to boost careers in agriculture and sort of economies and all of that. And I got very interested into this concept of regenerative cultures, where like everywhere I would start to see on the internet there would be people talking about regenerative economics, regenerative agriculture, regenerative businesses in general, and just this idea of like thinking regeneratively, because sustainability may not be enough because we have like depleted Earth's resources too much. That was something that was really appealing, and I just got absorbed into that world. I started my own enterprise at that time, which was a market garden with a couple of friends of mine. I had barely farmed like uh, vegetables in 2 pots on my rooftop, and I was thinking, oh, why not? I can just go and farm 1 acre, 5 acres, and I will scale up and I will do this, I will do that. And started a farm. It was a customer supported agriculture farm. I sort of learned on the job. I was working about 14-hour days, wake up at 6 a.m., work till 6 p.m. in the evenings, on the field, setting up my field, digging, all of that. And then 6 to 10 p.m., I would be sitting in the nursery sort of seeding. Um, had kind of taken up a lot on my head in many ways, but it sort of paid off in like a brilliant learning experience, and learning how to grow vegetables. And I was growing like 100 plus types of veggies plus flowers plus herbs for like selling in a subscription model for people. At some point, we were doing like decent sales. I had sort of figured out that we could potentially grow for like 30 families from 1 acre, which was easily like 1.2 L a month, and that was not bad as a college pass out thinking, okay, I'm going to try to be a business person and do all of this by myself. So that was the beginning of my journey into the entrepreneur world. It didn't last for too long. As partners, we sort of like grew apart and had a lot of differences. And that was like one lesson, which was like, do not just start businesses with friends very early on, figure out how you want to uh, go forward in business and in life, and then do things. After which till that point, it was almost all DIY sort of as an educational journey, and I had put a lot of my energies into that business, and that had me a little distraught. And then I went and did this permaculture course from Aranya Agriculture Alternatives down south near Hyderabad. And there it was like one place where I basically like learned that I did know a lot about agriculture. I had studied a fair amount of it by myself, and there were a few colleagues attending the same course who went like, hey Nishant, you know a bunch about agriculture, why don't you like design our farms? And that sort of came off as a surprise. And there were like 4 people overall, and I started designing people's landscapes, for like um, whole system solutions, doing watershed development, sort of setting up food forest with economic viability built in, because I had also tried to set up my own farms, barely like with any money, completely bootstrapped. So understanding sort of the importance of not just setting up farms for leisure and like, okay, I will have enough food for myself in the future, not as a retirement plan, but just thinking, how can I do this economically viably so I can learn about transitioning to regenerative agriculture for smallholder farmers, and that had been like the sort of spark in me, I think, that got me into agriculture. Just like me being troubled with all the problems that we were facing as collectively, climate change, food crisis, water crisis, and all of that, I think has played a huge part in the way I've been thinking about not just setting up of enterprises, but okay, can regenerative agriculture be scaled up, and all of these. and did a few of these farms: Chennai, Bihar, Pune, Manesar. And it was a great learning experience working on the field. One of the projects in particular, I think, was very shaping in the drives that I also had why I was getting into this, and that was Bihar. uh, and this project was like near Bhagalpur, about 100 kilometers from there, in this village called Bath village. They call it Bathu. And I've never seen a more defeated people in my life, I think. And just the abject poverty that you sort of like look at, and you look at these old malnourished people everywhere, like just overall, uh, it was like a culture shock. It was like a complete shock to my system in many ways. Like, what kind of poverty do people live in? And that sort of started me on like this journey of like at least like figuring out how I can take this to village levels, and how I can figure out platformization of approaches that can hopefully lead up to like creation of dream villages in the future. And just like this idea of Amul plus Oroville, and then plus Amazon, was something that was like the founding ethos of like my drive, thinking, okay, Amul, such a beautiful concept, why hasn't it been replicated to this kind of success before? And Oroville, unless you work on a culture of a people or a place, how difficult it probably would be to sustain like a huge sort of like endeavor. And then just the systemized approach of what Amazon has done in terms of systems, and also like bringing scalability and all those ideas, sort of just completely changing the entire landscape. And this is what I've been obsessed with. And so I finished uh, consulting on these projects sometime last year. Since then, I also worked on another project with an NGO, which was a climate information services project for agriculture in West Sikkim and Uttarkashi. That sort of took me to like uh, 12 gram panchayats in both rural areas of Sikkim and Uttarkashi. And I had this real wish to like talk to panchayats, learn about the problems that people perhaps face on the ground that I may be oblivious to completely, and what are the different mechanisms that people perhaps use to like gain on information. How well is the rural and the urban or the internet connection actually at the real rural levels, and it was a wonderful life-changing sort of trip where I got to talk to different gram panchayats, to administrative level officers, all agriculture officers, Krishi Vigyan Kendras, ICARs, and a lot of these people. And uh, all of these experiences together sort of like made me very hopeful in my journey so far. And I am just constantly looking forward to each day learning about how I can build on this ethos of Amul, Oroville, Amazon. What are the different steps that I need to learn about in order to like create my own idea of uh, this thing, and how it can be taken to like villages and create these unique models perhaps of like incubation and like enterprising approaches that can be taken to the village level. That's what I've been basically on as a journey in the last 4.5 years, I would say. And right now I'm still trying to figure out how I want to move forward. I would love to be able to set up brands or like enterprises within agriculture, but I think I still have a lot to learn in order to be able to become a successful business person. So I'm sort of like endeavoring to like figure out what are the next steps that I need to take in order to fill my skill gaps. Uh, Hopefully work with a few organizations that are already doing it at scale, work with perhaps an FPO or like an NGO. And at the same time, I've sort of set up my consulting firm as well, uh, which I would like to provide services to sort of niche segments such as farm to table concepts for luxury hospitality, or farm management and development for like individual
Mm.
farmers and stuff. Um, but I would not want to do that just primarily for like money. I don't think that is something that drives me a lot. It won't be something very exciting. So I would love to be able to work with organizations who are actually doing scalable transformations. I have sort of gone and tried to specialize in watershed development and holistic management, which also entails holistic grazing management and agroforestry solutions. So
Mm.
these are like the particular skill sets that I have tried to like work on during the last few years, and I feel like these would be something that would be very essential in sort of like developing enterprises at the rural level.
Okay,
Uh,
wonderful journey. And I must say that it proves that college can be a waste of time. Attending
Absolutely.
classes can be a waste of time, and you can use that time productively, provided you learn to think logically and act on the ground. Okay, so whether you are in music or in agriculture or whatever you want to be in, once your schooling has set a logical mind, how to think, how to talk, how to do things, you can make it work where your passion is. And so, what's your tips for young people?
One that has worked really well for me, I would say that internet is your haven. I think there's everything on the internet. Whatever you want to learn about, you can find from like pirated websites for like content for like movies or like books or like I think there's like so many of these people out there who have this open source mentality as well. What I was saying, like this regenerative thinking principle that people work on in their lives. And I think every field that I have sort of tried to learn about, whether it was trying to build synthesizers or learning how to trade and become an investor, or how to or learn about agriculture and enterprising within that, there's masters of each field on the internet and that you can find and learn from for free.
Yeah, this is the key point. I agree with you totally.
Yeah,
College is now just a holding place, and the information is out there,
yeah.
and you can get it at any time you want for no fee.
That I
Absolutely.
would say, like, one great thing that college did for me was also like engagement with my peers. Like,
Yeah,
I loved the friends that I had in college, even though I was not interested in my college at all.
yeah,
I, however, did have a couple classes that I enjoyed within
yeah,
my course a lot more than I did the entire course. And I had this one teacher who sort of like, I don't know what he must have seen, but like he somehow just knew that I did not want to pursue anything academically post that. I had sort of made up my mind, that I will not study from any institution post this degree, which I would not say that I still stick up with right now. I think there's really brilliant institutes out there that you can go and pursue education from. But yeah, he just told me that, hey, Nishant, it's not necessary that you have to pursue a career in economics. You do know that, right? And that's all that conversation was. And obviously, I had all these inclinations of trying to become a musician and follow an alternative path, but that was sort of like a underpinning in terms of, okay, he knows what he's also talking about, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who will change their courses going forward. I think that's really important. For sure, you're definitely correct.
anything else you want to add here?
I would say, like, it is really important to also figure out the different steps that may be involved in a journey of like whatever you may have sort of undertaken. I'm still struggling with mine, at least trying to figure out the particular steps or particular hurdles that I need to cross in order to be able to get to my goals. And it's not going to be easy, but I think it's just the journey that I'm really enjoying so much. One of the few things that I think I would love to do going forward is, learn how to set up demonstration hubs at these different gram panchayats that I sort of want to talk or like work with. This project that I was telling you about, climate information services in agriculture, it was so life changing in so many ways. I first began just talking about my the project that I was there for, like this climate information services. I had a questionnaire and I started talking about it. People were like, why are you wasting our time? Everyone just comes here and like starts off with their questionnaires and like waste time and does not do anything. And I instantly changed my approach and I started talking about farming and the different problems that people face and everything. And I had like 3-4 hour conversations at every village. By the time I was like reaching my last village, there were WhatsApp messages being shared across like districts, not districts, sorry, different villages within the same district, that hey, there's this guy who knows a bit about agriculture. um, Talk to him. So a lot of people sort of like got started getting together as these visits progressed. And at the end of it, people were like really curious to sort of like just have these conversations about uh, regenerative agriculture and different way of like living and possible ways of enterprising. And some of them were even like, hey, why don't you just come here and work with us, and like we'll give you panchayat land and all of that. And that sort of sent me on this idea of like, okay, one can work on commons, like common lands between villages is such an untapped potential, when it comes to whether holistic grazing or just creating common resources that can be shared by an entire village, and how this idea can be used to create abundances everywhere, overall abundances in terms of water security, food security, and uh, instantly we would have this idea of everyone being at least a basic level within uh, village community. It would be like at least the most essential needs are taken care of, and then you look at how to build from there. So that was one really like life changing project that I did, and I'm so like glad that I got to work on such a project.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right. Shall we end it here, or you want to add something more?
I think we could end it here as well.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Nishant, very much. It's always a pleasure to hear the stories of young people who are both productive and enterprising, who are doing what they want to do, but it's not a waste of anybody's time and money. What they want to do is actually productive. We should have more of it. That look, there is a conventional method and track. Okay. And that's how the system in any country is designed, just go on the track. Okay, you become an engineer, you become a doctor, you become an economist, and you go on the track. But then there have to be some people who will say, I have my own track. I don't know what it is, but it is there somewhere. I'll find it one day. And I think if we don't have such people, then we won't get real progress. Okay? We need people to be a little bit not outside their comfort zone, who want to find what their comfort zone is.
And I think it's also to get to their comfort zones, you may have to like traverse being out of your comfort zone as well in many ways.
Okay. All right, good. All right, wonderful. Let's talk offline. Let's end it here now. I'll be back with another young person or an expert soon. Bye, everybody. Till then.